KVMs are nice and very expensive, and if you're not fortunate enough to be able to go ahead and find one of these at an affordable price, there's not really many options out there for you. Until today. KVMs can be expensive. There's got to be a better solution, such as the Tinypilot. So let's go ahead and crack this open, take a look at it, and then go ahead and hook it up and check it out. It has power in, and then here is a data cable to connect via USB to the server and a HDMI port. And then we have the 4 USB ports here and an Ethernet, and on the bottom we have the micro SD card. So let's go ahead and take this out and go ahead and crack this open and see what it's like on the inside. This just comes open here. Got a ribbon cable going up here and the fan connector. So the ribbon cable goes ahead and connects to this board, which is actually going over to the HDMI port there. And looking at the Raspberry Pi, it does look to have a few modifications here. So we have the original Pi underneath, and we have this board connected to it here, and it is connected via USB, it looks like, from here to here. Then you have your original micro HDMI outs. So this is a Pi 4, it looks like. And we can see here, this is a regular capacitor, but then the other caps on here are solid caps. Now let's go ahead and put this back together. So let's go ahead and re-hook everything back up. So for the power, positive was towards the USB port here. And now let's just go ahead and slide this back in. Now we just got the 4 screws to put back in. Now, Tinypilot does have their own nice little micro SD card here, and then we'll slide that back in. Now I'm going to go ahead and take this power supply here, plug that into the power side, and this is 5.1 volts at 3.5 amps. And then for the data side, I'll plug in this USB-C to USB-A cable. And I also received its Phoenix, I guess, VGA to HDMI adapter, because my server, because it's a real server, does not have HDMI out. It just has VGA. Now, when I received the Tinypilot, I actually didn't get any instructions or anything with it. This has some instructions inside of there, but it looks pretty straightforward. You've got VGA and audio if you needed that. And then it looks like it is powered via USB. And then we have HDMI out. So then we'll just connect this HDMI over to this HDMI to be able to capture it. So to show you how to do that, I'm taking this HDMI cable, plugging it into the capture card there. And then now I'm connecting over to this adapter. And next I'm going to connect it up to one of my servers. So I went ahead and opened up a browser and put in the IP address for the Tinypilot, and it gave me this error here, which I just click advanced and tell it to go ahead and proceed. And right now it shows there is no signal. We'll see what happens if we send a Control-Alt-Delete. So I went ahead and unplugged the HDMI from the adapter on the server and just plugged it directly into my MacBook Pro, and I'm still not getting any signals. So I'm wondering if it needs an update or something. So let's just go to System and Update. Here's a new version, so we can check out the changelog and update it. So it looks like with 2.4.1 we get experimental opt-in support for H.264 over WebRTC. And you can disable spell check and autocomplete on non-pros text inputs, remove noise from debug logs, and prevent the update from timing out on slow network connections. And now we just hurry up and wait. And we can watch the logs here as it's updating. Now it is restarting here for the update, and I also went ahead and grabbed another HDMI cable, just in case the one I have hooked up currently is bad, although it was brand new, and I just opened it up. Now I'm going to click OK. And still no signal. Very interesting. Now, one other thing I forgot to mention earlier is that you don't have to use the power cable. You can actually use power over Ethernet, or PoE. As you can see here, it is drawing 5.1 watts. Well, it works, but something's up with the screen. Let's see if we can figure this out. So I changed the video settings to like 50% for the JPEG image quality and 10 frames per second. So that didn't make any difference. If I tell it to screenshot, I wonder if it'll look exactly like what I see on the screen. Yep, looks exactly like what we're seeing through the remote session. So right now I'm connected via RDP. I'm going to restart it and then we'll watch and see if it picks up the signal. All right, so it's got to be something to do with the resolution on the server. And now it's starting to flake out. That's weird. Now it's working. Okay, so now it's letting me log in. And now let's look at the video settings again. We'll just restore defaults and hit apply. We'll see if that breaks things again. Now it seems like this is not completely aligned. And let's do full screen and see how this looks. Let's do a speed test between my machines. And it looks like to exit the full screen, we just bring the mouse all the way up and then click on the X. So that's cool. And if you wanted to, you can send the keyboard shortcuts like Control-Alt-Delete. And we'll check for updates again. It should be up to date. We're good to go there. Here it looks like you can create virtual media. I'm guessing kind of similar to the iDRAC. And then let me know if you guys want me to do a deep dive on this here. And if this video gets 1,000 likes, I'll go ahead and do so. So now I'm going to open up Notepad. I go ahead and just copy this. And then see if I can paste it. So apparently I can just do that with Control-V. Copy. Well, it's not working here. Oh, maybe from here I need to paste it. There we go. Okay, so that's how that works. Interesting. Totally not intuitive. So let's check out security for this. By default, the web access does not have any credentials to be able to pull it up. You can enable that. Here is SSH access as well. And by default, it does require encrypted over HTTPS, which is why I got the initial warning. It looks like we can go ahead and configure a host name. So if you have more than one Tinypilot, you can give them each individual unique names. Already went into the video settings. And here you can go ahead and select hide sensitive data and give a shareable URL. I wonder what that looks like. So this is kind of interesting that you can share logs publicly. Not sure how I feel about that, because then the question then becomes, are any logs actually leaking, or will there be any exploits to be able to leak logs to make this another attack surface? So let's try different cursors. Well, we can see what none looks like. I mean, it should be, wow, that is really laggy. Because I'm not seeing my mouse, I'm just seeing the remote mouse, and that is laggy. So it's still laggy, but at least with the crosshair, you have the orientation as far as being able to see where you are, sort of. Again, it's a little bit misaligned. Here's the dot. Here's the pointer. That one's even worse just because it's like hiding underneath the hand. And this is the cell. I think I like the default or the crosshair the most. None would drive me nuts just because of how much lag there is. And unfortunately, there's nothing greater than 30 frames a second. Let's see if we go ahead and just bring down the quality to half here. Yeah, I'm still seeing quite a bit of lag. Let's try 10% quality and see what that looks like. Well, this is interesting. It kind of looks like a animated GIF, and it still is pretty laggy. Now what happens if we drop it down to 10 frames a second and still keep it at 10% for the JPEG quality? To me, it feels like it is even more laggy. Yikes. I just want to try something here real quick. So I'm going to jump on over to Jason's lab here. If you are unfamiliar with his channel, you might want to check him out if you're into server stuff. He does a lot of stuff with Untangle, but let's just see how this does streaming. I don't really think it looks that well to begin with here streaming. So let's go ahead and bump the video settings up back to 30 frames a second. So it's less choppy. And let's see what it looks like all maxed out. So you can see some occasional tearing here, but I don't know anybody who's planning on just streaming video content over a remote KVM connection. So the majority of people are going to be using this on headless machines. So say, for example, a Linux server or a Windows server, or whatever hypervisor that you're running, be able to access the physical raw hardware if you don't have, say, for example, like a iDRAC Enterprise or ILO or Integrated Lights Out license to be able to connect to the machine. Now, also, I'm going to go ahead and do a video on the Pi KVM 3 next, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one. Eventually, I'll go ahead and compare the two so that you can see if one one is better for your use case scenario over another.